IBC Bank believes in doing more for local communities. Every year, IBC Bank gives back by investing in countless worthwhile endeavors. IBC Bank invests in our youngest community members by presenting Minitropolis, a school program that teaches students leadership and the importance of responsibility. From supporting local nonprofit organizations to helping present school programs, IBC Bank is devoted to making a positive impact in people's lives and contributing to the prosperity of future generations.
This has been a truly exciting year at IBC Bank. Having challenged ourselves to become the community bank of choice that dominates and delivers on the expectation of leadership. And boy, have we delivered.
IBC Bank offers free checking accounts, is open 7 days a week, even on Sunday. With 29 convenient locations throughout Hidalgo County and convenient hours of service, IBC Bank does more for you. IBC Bank takes pride in organizing events that bring together our community leadership. Outings such as Empresarios and RGV Women with Purpose provide a vital opportunity for business owners and community leaders to unite. Together, we explore and educate the public and business community on events and changes that affect our economy. United we stand, and IBC Bank stands with you to help ensure the continued growth and prosperity of our local communities.
Hi, and thank you for joining us on the Monitor's YouTube channel. I'm Naxieli Lopez Puente, and today we're going to be talking about a very important bond measure that is on the ballot in May. So, for those of you who don't know, early voting is currently underway, and Election Day is May 4th. In Edinburg, voters will decide whether to pass a $220 million bond issue for the Edinburg School District. And to help us better understand this, we have two school board members here with us. Joining me are School Board President Robert Peña and School Board Member Mike Farias. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Good morning.
All right, so before we begin our discussion, just a couple of house rules. Number one, we will not be keeping time. So we all agreed that in the interest of having a candid conversation, we would work without time constraints. However, I will be moderating today's conversation. Number two, I'd also like to note that neither of them have received the questions that I'm about to ask. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
All right. And number three, let's be courteous to each other. Let's attack ideas and not each other.
Good.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
without further ado, let's get started. My first question, Mr. Peña, is very basic. Edinburg taxpayers want to know what $220 million will buy them. Not why they need to vote for it, but what will it purchase?
Certainly. First, if I may give a brief history as well, which includes that about 5 years ago, we conducted a strategic plan study that involved over 50 members of our community to assess the plan of the district going forward, not only academically, but also with regards to facility needs. At that time, then we began to also go forward with looking at the interior needs of our district from an administrative point of view as to what we felt would be the needs of our facilities going forward. We began to actually discuss this bond a little over a year ago, probably about a year and a half. And as the discussions came about, the administration began to work with their staff to see what the true needs of the district or total needs of the district would be. In the initial assessment, it was determined that we probably had needs of a little over $300 million in facilities that we could address. And that need was then narrowed down to as we began to study our finances and determine where we could be financially able to handle the expansion or improvements. Then we also studied our finances with our financial advisor, and we determined that probably around 220 million would be a comfortable place to be, because looking at previous bond issues, we had approved $112 million for a total of 7 cents, and we only used 5. So then we felt that financially we could, after we looked at various options, then we could determine the immediate needs of $220 million at 4 cents, and addressing the highest needs, which is a high school, a middle school, 2 career and technology facilities and expansions of 2 elementary schools, as well as new gymnasiums for the elementary schools that were still lacking gymnasium needs. We had begun in other years beginning to add or improve gymnasiums for some elementaries, but not all of them had them. So this would help us complete that.
So if I'm understanding correctly, this will $220 million would pay for a high school, a middle school, 2 CTE campuses, the expansion of 2 elementary schools, and 2 new gymnasiums.
17 gymnasiums.
Oh, 17 gymnasiums.
17 gymnasiums, yes.
All right. Mr. Farias, if you would like to address what he just said.
Sure. There's no question that there's a need in our district. And as Mr. Peña pointed out, that we do have needs. But the needs are in the existing 4 high schools that we have. 0 of this money, of the $220 million, is going to be going to these high schools that we have needs in. Also, 0 of the $220 million is going to be going to the middle schools. They're going to be going to building brand new high school and middle school. Now, is that the answer? I don't believe so. I believe the answer is, if we would get the $103 million that is being proposed to build a brand new high school, and we divide that in 4, we could invest $26 million into each one of our high schools.
So are you proposing maybe an expansion at high school?
Well,
or?
the reason why I'm even considering that or looking into that is because we have to take into consideration the additional staff that we're going to have to employ to fill the new high school, the new middle school. Because think about it, we're not getting more kids, we're just adding more staff to our enrollment. And we're not increasing the size of the pizza that everybody's sharing right now. We have 5,400 employees in our district. We're going to add another 300 plus, but we're going to have the same size of pizza. What are the chances of our employees at our district getting a raise or getting a bonus? I just wish that we would concentrate more on paying our teachers what they deserve than looking into building brand new facilities. The need's there, there's no question about that. But I believe there's a better way of doing it without increasing taxes and being a tax burden to our constituents.
Okay. So if I may ask you now, why do we need a new high school and a new middle school?
Well, I'm glad to hear that Mr. Farias agrees that there is a need, because he has been saying that. Although I don't believe that he should raise a concern about salaries, because bonds do not pay for salaries. That comes out of our budget, and one of the things that we told our superintendent early on is that if we were going to be able to do this, that we wanted to be sure that we were going to be able to meet the staff, the salary, and the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and the things that go into these facilities. So Dr. Gutierrez has done that work and has assured us and told us that we're going to be able to fulfill those needs. So no doubt that we would be able to, now, but going back to the new high school, as you asked, I disagree with Mr. Farias. Edinburg CISD is a family. When one school benefits, all school benefits. When one school wins, all school wins. When one school achieves a milestone, the district achieves a milestone. And because we are a family, the benefit to the other schools would be the fact that when we add a 5th high school, then we would be able to lower classroom teacher ratios at other high schools. We would be able to allow our students to attend a new high school if they so chose to do so, or as we redistrict or rezone, then that redistribution of students would then allow parents to also know that their child was getting a better student-teacher ratio. And that would lessen the burden on our teachers, that would lessen the stress, that would lessen the workload that they have to keeping up with parents. And I think that's still a benefit to all our teachers. To say that a bond is for every school and should be for every campus or every school is a myth. That's untrue, because a bond is to fulfill your immediate needs and help you expand or grow. And if Mr. Farias has the idea that we can always continue to add to a high school, then you're also adding the stress to that principal, you're also adding the stress to those teachers and to that size of that school. So I don't see where that would fulfill the need of the students or the teachers. Because we have to keep in mind that our staff is overburdened, and as they're overburdened, then by creating better classroom ratios, by creating better facilities for our students, then they have a better learning environment, and our district wins.
Mr. Farias?
Well, you know, we could definitely address the student ratio by adding wings and classrooms to the existing high schools, okay? So, and I'm glad that Mr. Peña brought up the fact that zero of this money is going to be going to paying the teachers as far as payroll is concerned. But yet at the same time, if the new high school and the new middle school is built, then we're going to have to go ahead and get a whole new administration. Well, not only that, we also have to take into consideration the buses that we're going to have to buy to transport to 4 different new locations. Now, I asked the superintendent yesterday at the town hall meeting, have they taken into consideration the additional money that we're going to have to do to spend to buy buses, drivers, and fuel? And the answer was no. They haven't looked into that yet. They haven't considered that. And I have a problem with that. If we're going to make a 30-year commitment, we're going to go out for $220 million, don't you want to take a look at the whole thing and see what it's really going to cost us? The district hasn't even looked into what the additional cost is going to be for the buses and transportation to get these kids there. Now, we can go ahead and add wings and expand the existing schools that we got right now, and it would address the overcrowded issue. That can simply be taken care of. And as far as the middle schools are concerned, currently we're above capacity about 40 kids, according to the Templeton demographics. That does not include the 22 portables that are at these middle schools. That's just the buildings that exist. And it also shows there's going to be a decrease in numbers. I just don't want to put our constituents in a tax burden for the next 30 years if it's projected that we're going to have 10% less population in our school districts.
So enrollment has been a big issue, and I think both sides have put forward different numbers when it comes to the number of students that Edinburg serves. What can you guys tell me about the current situation with the middle schools and the high schools? Are there too many students per classroom? Are we above, are we about on par? What's it like?
And I can tell you that this is a district membership report that I'll show you here that Mr. Farias and I both receive at every board meeting. Mm-hmm. And if you take this district membership report, I believe it pales in comparison to the demographic study that Mr. Farias continues to focus on, because this here tells us specifically what our current enrollment is for each middle school, where we are at 1,301, 1,400 at another middle school, 1,200 at another middle school, 1,300 at another middle school. In all total, these middle schools, or by TA standard, a middle school should have 900 students. So when you are having 1,300 and 1,400 students, then you're obviously over. We are presently would be over by 1,900 students by TA standards in our middle schools. So therefore, again, a redistribution of our students would help our teachers and our classroom ratios be reduced, because right now, where TEA specifies that we should have 22 to 25 students on a classroom ratio, we're experiencing 30 or more in a classroom, and our teachers do attest to that.
So, if I heard you correctly, you just mentioned that we were over about 1,000 students over capacity when you combined the middle schools.
1,900.
1,000. And so I heard you mention that we were only 40 students.
I'm just going by the Templeton demographics, where it shows what our capacities are for each one of our facilities.
Okay. And those capacities that Templeton put together don't match the ones that TEA.
No. What Mr. Peña is referring to is TEA has a preference of how many kids should be in a high school, middle school, but these schools were built for 1,248, 1,200, 1,140, 1,212, 1,200, and 1,248. These middle schools were built for the capacity to handle over 1,000 children. Okay, so I understand that the TA states that it would be a lot better to go ahead and just have 1,000 children, but properly managed. And not only that, the district has done a great job in managing it. I mean, Edinburg has more distinctions than McAllen, Farr, Mission, all those schools combined. You know, we have 6 blue ribbon schools. We're doing a great job with what we have. So I don't see the necessity of, if we already have the middle schools and they're built for that capacity, according to that, we're only over by about 40, 45 kids, not including the 22 portables that we have in the middle schools. There's 22 portables and they're not taking into consideration those classes that are there, those classrooms. Now, definitely with proper management, and they're doing a heck of a job, they're doing a great job, we can go ahead and do that. But there's a lot of other things that we can do in the middle schools. We can go ahead and do improvements in the middle schools. And the rezoning issue is a big issue too. Now, back July 31st, our superintendent came out on your newspaper and stated the reason why they have open enrollment was because of the decrease of enrollment that's happening in our district, and it's been steady for the last 3 to 5 years.
So enrollment is a big issue, and we will get to it just in a
Okay.
bit. But speaking about the numbers and the facilities, how do you respond to his allegations that these buildings were built for the capacity that they're at right now?
Well, it's interesting because there's 2 things that I see that Mr. Farias is contradicting himself, because first of all, when he talks about buses and needing more buses, then that's an indication that we have more students. But if we are redistricting and rezoning our the same student population, then we are just adjusting our routes and changing routes where buses would go pick up and drop off students. You know, now, so are we adding students? You know, or what's Mr. Farias saying here? You know, because
Well, he's saying that the facilities are built
well,
for the capacity
and,
that they're
and let's
at.
go to the facilities now, because I just covered the buses. Now, in the facilities, there's a contradictory there too, because if he admits that we have 24 portables, then we obviously don't have the space in the buildings to have classrooms for these students. So let's add, give them classrooms. Let's take them out of the portables. The portables, they go out in inclement weather, hot or cold. They don't have the same safety and security that the building does. So let's give them a school that they deserve.
All right, let's talk about enrollment really quickly.
Now, see, if I may, because Mr. Benya said I contradicted myself on the buses.
Sure.
You need additional buses if you have 4 different locations to go take students to. So it isn't a contradiction, Mr. Pena, that I'm saying that we need additional buses because there's 4 different locations they're going to have to go to. We can't be using the same buses that we have right now to take kids to 4 different locations. We can manage it as best as we can, but the fact of the matter is there's going to have to be additional buses needed because of the locations, the 4 additional locations that we're going to have to get kids there all at the same time.
And when you say locations, to be clear, you mean the new high school?
The new high school, new middle school, and the new,
and the
new,
two
yes,
CCD.
ma'am. That's what I mean.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about enrollment. There's a big discrepancy here too. The Templeton study says that enrollment will be decreasing by 10%, I believe.
Over a period of 10 years is what they told us. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so, but you see different trends going on in the community that, make you believe that this isn't necessarily what Edinburg is going to experience within the next 10 years. So I'll let you take the floor first and talk to us about enrollment.
I'd like to say that for sure I can say without a doubt, the differences between Mr. Farias and myself is 2 years and 10 years. I've been through a bond, he hasn't been through a bond. I've seen the trends in our district grow for the past 10 years. He is realizing what's happened in the last 2 to 3 years, But what I can tell you for a fact is that when I first came on the board 10 years ago, we were just under 30,000 students. A little over 20, we were at 29.9, let's say, that I can recall. Today we are at 34,000. But what I can say factually also attest to is that in the past 5 years, or at least since 2014, we have held steady at over 34,000 students. So in the past years, we continue to do that. Now, what the Templeton study pointed out to us is that the Templeton study says Well, you do lose some students or more of your students at the elementary level, okay? And we have seen that where they enroll at IDEA or Vanguard at another campus. However, the trend that we also see is that those students come back to us. This particular graph that I'd like to show you, or this chart, is from our school district, and this school district shows you a list of every school district here in the Rio Grande Valley where we receive students back to our school district from 2017 to 2019. We have gotten 477 students, 257, 236, 172, 153, 123. These are all from neighboring districts. I'm not going to name the districts because I don't want to offend anybody, but they're all from neighboring districts here to Edinburg. I didn't run a full total, but obviously we are 4, 6, 8. We're close to 1,000 or a little over 1,000 students that have come back to our district in the past 2 years.
Really quickly, how does that equate to the number of students that have left the district? Are there more students coming, or are there more students leaving within that 2-year period?
We probably, if I can say that we're holding steady at 34,000, well, 34,285, 34,5, 34,6. These are upward trends, okay? And we're getting students back. So I can say yes, that we do have students that may go at the elementary level to these schools, but they go to these schools because they have after school programs. They have care programs for the elementary students that we do not have in our school district, or that other public schools do not have. However, when they reach the middle school level, then our students come back because they can engage in sports, in UIL, and in other activities that keep them there after school. They're older, they're more mature, and they can participate in these sports as well, or in these other activities, and that gives them the ability to remain in school while parents are still working. Okay. So the trend is that they come back to us, and I think I pointed out to the numbers here.
Okay, and so how do you interpret the numbers for the enrollment?
Well, we just added the Head Start program to our district about 2 years ago. Now, that Head Start program is an additional 600 plus kids. So when they say that the numbers have been steady, if it wasn't for those 600 kids that were added in Head Start 2 years ago, well, we would be well under the 3,400. As a matter of fact, right now, I believe we're at 34, maybe 34.1. Okay? Now, as far as the enrollment's concerned, we're not the only game in town. And that's good, because competition's good. We've got other charter schools that are out there, and those other charter schools are also in the process of building high schools. So when Templeton Demographics did their study, they didn't just go ahead and have blinders and just look at our district. They looked at everything around Edinburg and the way things are growing. Over 50% of the enrollment in the state of Texas, according to Templeton's demographic, is not over 50% is enrolled in private charter schools. Okay? That's a big amount.
Here in the valley, or?
In the statewide.
Oh, statewide.
Yes, and not only that, but statewide, it also has decreased over the past years. And that is something that is very, it's alarming, for the simple fact that we don't have those many kids enrolling like we used to. Right here, as you can see, Noxie, in 9-10, it was 98,000 enrolled. Okay? This, in 17-18, 40,000.
And you're talking about the number of students across Texas
enrolling into
our
public
schools?
Yes, no, into all our schools.
Into
Yes, including all the charter schools. But out of this 40, half of those are in private charter schools. In other words, we're not the only game in town. And yes, Edinburgh is growing.
But looking specifically at Edinburg and enrollment,
yes.
let's focus on that.
Sure. Let's look at Vanguard. They just went ahead and added 12 portable buildings on Veterans Drive. Vanguard just added 12 portable buildings, which means 24 classrooms, because they double up as 2 classrooms per portable. Okay. And back at the Toros, they're breaking ground and going ahead and adding to what IDEA's having, and they're growing. At Los Lagos, they're also expanding with IDEA. We're not the only game in town. That's what I'm saying. And the fact of the matter is that as students come in, they have a choice. I wish we would concentrate a lot more in seeing how we can go ahead and compete with all these districts, with all these charter schools, as much as we are concentrated on trying to pass a bond. I really wish that we could do that. Edinburg's doing a great job. We have so many distinctions, and I give full credit to all the teachers in the trenches, all the principals, all the staff that are going out there, people that pick up our kids, drop off our kids. It's a big testament of the success. But at the same time, we can do better, and we can also go ahead, and I like to see more of an investment in looking on how we can compete with these charter schools. We have 3,700 empty seats in our elementaries.
What do you mean by that?
3,700 empty seats in our elementaries.
Are you saying that there are some classrooms that may not be filled?
Many.
Or?
Many. 3,700 empty seats, according to the study that Mr. Peña referred to. Why don't we take some of those elementaries and let's retrofit them and use them for something else? Let's consolidate them. The ones that are half empty, the ones that have so many kids, let's consolidate them and let's use what we got right now. Not only that, but we could have gone out for $152 million without a tax increase.
We'll get into that in just a bit.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Peña, a lot of different issues that Mr. Farias pointed out, including that some of the classrooms at elementary schools are sitting empty. Is that an accurate statement? Is this happening in Edinburgh?
I disagree. I think that's an inaccurate statement because the superintendent, the district, has never claimed that we had 3,700 empty seats. You know, how he came up with seats and how you count seats, you know, did he physically go in and count every desk or something? I don't know. But in any case, let's move on. If Mr. Farias is also stating that we are the only game that we're not the only game in town, he is correct. But let's take care of our own. Let's take care of our children so that they remain in Edinburg CISD. Let's give them the quality of the facilities that they deserve. If he wants to compete, then let's build them the facilities that they deserve. If we're going to continue to add portable buildings and put 32 students that do not fit in a portable building, and I invite Mr. Farias to come walk one of the campuses with me so he can see how crowded those portables are, then let's give them what they deserve. You know, our students should come first. Yes, hey, we are already an A-rated district. We have the most distinctions by any district in the Rio Grande Valley. So our teachers are accomplishing a lot with our students. But then let's reward them for those accomplishments. Let's give them less classroom, you know, ratios, less student-teacher ratios, and let's go back and take care of those. If we have 24 portables at a middle school, that's 48 classrooms that could be attached or have a building.
Okay. And where did you get the 3,700 number from?
Temple demographics, this is our capacity, okay? And this is what we currently have. Now, I went a little step further. I didn't go and count all the seats at the elementary, but I didn't have to because these are the reports that are given to us at every board meeting. I went ahead and got what our population is in our elementaries, and I went ahead and just put some down here. Betts Elementary is by capacity under 161. Brewster Elementary by capacity is under 306. Gano Elementary by capacity is under 189. Cavazos 179. Esparza 206. Escondon. So there's 16 elementaries that I put down here that were under capacity by 100 or more seats.
So to be fair, the bond would not build a new elementary school.
That is correct.
Well, the bond will, you are correct. It will add, the bond will add extensions on 2 elementaries and also will do 17 gyms in the elementaries. That's what this bond would address as far as the elementaries are concerned.
And so why do we need to renovate gyms? You know, I went to school and it was just a, a big empty space.
You said it perfectly. It was just a building. It was just a metal building. But, you know, these buildings do wear and tear after time. I'd love to invite you to come walk through some of those older gyms, you know, because I think you'll see that, you know, like our homes, like our garages or our barns, you know, they all experience wear and tear. And ultimately, we need to upgrade, renovate, or renew. And that's what we want to do for our elementaries. I want to go back to, you know, Mr. Farias said we're adding 2 wings. We're adding 2 wings to 2 elementaries and that have a high number of students. in addition to the fact that Mr. Varias also recently voted to approve the rezoning for 3 campuses in that area so that we could adjust the student ratios at those campuses and better balance those out, you know. So yes, we do that exercise, but those 3 elementaries and those neighborhoods are right next to each other. And they're right next to each other in an area where Mr. Farias specifically stated that as Edinburg, we are growing. And that is one of our highest growth corridors. So, you know, we are addressing those needs as we go forward. But when you have over 32 or about 34 elementary schools, you can't rezone or redistrict for elementary students to go from a one extreme to another. You have to adjust those as close to each other as you can. And we do that occasionally. There's been years when, because of just population changes or new subdivisions, then we make those zoning adjustments as we grow and go along.
Okay. So another thing that would be funded through this bond would be 2 new CTE facilities. So first, let's talk about what a CTE facility is.
Sure.
And then we can get into the nitty-gritty about it. What is a CTE facility?
Go ahead, Mr. Pena has 8 years over me on this, so he should know.
One of you. One of you, please.
Well, you know what? Okay. This pretty much lays out the different classes or certificates that the individual would be able to do. And it's, one of them is construction, electrical, and HCV, AC, automotive technology, auto collision, diesel technology, video game design, computer maintenance, cosmetology, audiovisual production, you guys would like that, health science, CNA, farm tech, pharmacy tech, welding and manufacturing, and culinary arts.
So it's basically, it's giving students who don't want to go to a 4-year college an opportunity to earn a certificate in high demand jobs.
And we need that. We need that. I mean, that is something that definitely, I believe Mr. Pena and I can agree on, is that we definitely need that. You know, let's face it, not everybody's going to go to college. But I know a lot of people that do these works and that do these jobs, they have their own businesses, they have their own companies, and they're doing really well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I always encourage everybody to go to college and take advantage of the opportunities we got to educate yourself. But there's some individuals that just have a knack and a trade to do that, and they're really gifted. And this way they can find out where their strong points are. And if it happens to be in one of these traits, more power to them. Because we definitely, whenever your AC goes down, trust me, we'll be calling them. And June and July, we'll be begging them. And so there's good opportunities for all these jobs. And then with the oil business going on with welders and what's happening in Brownsville, there's all kinds of opportunities.
So I don't hear you disagreeing with the fact that the district needs more facilities like this.
Oh, no, definitely. We need facilities like this. We definitely do. We definitely. I don't agree on 2. I believe in 1 central, so we can go ahead and take all the kids there. And that's what I agree on. Centrally located, so we can go ahead and bus them from the 4 different high schools to go into the CTE.
So, Mr. Pena, why do we need 2 CTE facilities instead of just 1, like Mr. Farias is proposing?
I'm glad to hear that Mr. Farias agrees, you know, and that just goes to show that in the studies that we conducted, in the reports that were provided to us, that, you know, the information that was given to us and about the CTEs would be beneficial to our students. Again, when one school benefits, all schools benefit. And the fact that not only would we be able to expand our CTE programs, because if you look at Mr. Farias' list there, he gave you a list of programs that we currently have, but he talked about air conditioned tech. And air conditioned tech is something that we would want to add, also such as electrical, plumbing trades, building trades. We would like to add a program that Mr. Farias is an advocate for as well, which is cybersecurity, you know, and I think we could enhance our EMT program a lot more. I recently posted a video on Facebook where I went to go see a neighboring district's EMT facility, and that, you know, that was really a great experience to see a state-of-the-art facility where ours are antiquated and dated already. So that being said, we have a large district that covers 921 square miles. Our buses log in over 1 million miles a year as they go and pick up and drop off our students. So we have one career and technology facility with limited area, and we would like to expand that and expand it into 2 for the reason that currently our students have to travel. That one is located at Barrientos Middle School. And our students have to travel as far from Edinburg North High School and Economidas High School into town and then get to Barrientos Middle School. And as we all know, a bus travels slower than a car. So when the school bell rings, they go and they get on their bus and they have to travel. They're killing about 30 minutes of class time traveling there. And then they have to do their classes, wait to get on a bus and get back to their campus, you know, and then at their campus get on their home bus and then try to get home. And you know, routinely our buses can run late. I mean, that's just an experience that we have at all our campuses. They're not on time all the time. So if they're running late, then that also precludes them from being able to get back quicker than, or even getting to class. So loss of class time, bus time, things of that nature. If we put them closer to the campuses, then with easier highway access, then our students will be able to get there sooner, and they'll be able to get back to their campuses quicker. They can transfer from their campus to their CATE facility a lot easier, and it makes it seamless. You know, it's just, and the fact that we can add and we can grow. You know, this program is about adding opportunities for our students. If you add a high school, you're also adding opportunities for our students to participate in sports, in band, in UIL, and in other programs, you know, in theater arts, because now you have another student who could be the lead in the play and not have to compete at another school that has 3,000 more students, you know, or I'm sorry, you know, 300 more students. So going back to the fact that, you know, you can have it nearby is essential and beneficial. We would have 2 high schools or 3 that could attend 1 career in technology, and you would have 2 or 3 high schools that could attend another career in technology. The last thing I'd like to point out is that you also, when you expand career and technology facilities, these are all state-driven dollars. The state and federal dollars fund our career and technology, and it would improve our budget that we would be able to pay for those teachers that Mr. Farias was talking about.
Really quickly before I let you respond to that, just 2 questions. Would the bond fund these new programs that want to be added? Or would the district have to spend more to bring in equipment?
Again,
you know?
they are state and federal dollars, so we would receive additional funds.
That's right. There's a
to
lot of
fund
interest
those
from the
programs.
state.
Yep.
Okay, and so another quick question. So would the same programs be offered at both facilities, or would both facilities have different programs offered?
That hasn't been determined yet. You know, that is a discussion that we as board members would want to have to provide the best opportunities for our students.
Okay,
so, you know, let's not put the cart before the horse.
All right, and now, Mr. Farias, if you would like to respond to his comments on CTE.
Oh, definitely on the CTE facilities. I'm excited about us looking into this. This is going to be a wonderful addition to what we already have. And definitely a big supporter to empower our children to go out there and be self-sufficient. Do you know what I'm saying? That is very powerful, not only financially, but also emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, because it makes them feel that they can do it and they can be productive. There's nothing like being productive. And that's one of the things that I just want to give every child any kind of opportunity, and every opportunity. If one is college, that's great. But if one has to do with the CTE, let's go ahead and do that. Because right now there is a lot of children that aren't able to participate with this because, yes, I agree with Robert. I'm sorry, I agree with Mr. Peña. We need to offer more things. And a point that Mr. Peña is saying about that when one school benefits, everybody benefits. Mr. Peña also made a statement that, you know, like your home, after a while, it needs repairs. It needs fixing up. It needs this. Well, I agree with him on that. I agree that in a house, you have to do maintenance. You have to do repairs. Sometimes you have to add, you know. I started off with 0 kids, now I got 4. I had to upgrade, more rooms. That's so true. That's why I don't understand why we're not investing in the schools we got right now, the 4 high schools, and make those additions and make those improvements. Why are we going to go ahead and have all these children in these 4 schools not be able to benefit from the additions on just one high school? You know, let's be fair and equal with everybody, and just make sure that everybody gets an upgrade, everybody gets fixed up facilities, additions, whatever renovations are needed to go ahead and have equality through all. One brand new high school, why is it fair, or it isn't fair for just a select amount of kids to go ahead and have something all brand new, and the other 80% have whatever's old? That's just my point.
Okay, and so I'm being told that we're running out of time.
Okay.
So, excuse me. My last question is about trust. You know, we have seen what's happening in Westlaco with their water plant and the allegations that are coming out of that. And, you know, you've seen allegations from both sides about teachers perhaps being intimidated, the community fearful of what elected officials will do with their taxpayer money. What can both of you tell the community as far as trusting their elected leaders and this big amount of money that they'll be getting?
Sure. Only person I trust is God, quite frankly. But as far as trust is concerned, you need to be open and honest. You need to be accessible. I have a major problem with this election being run in May. There is nothing going on in May. There's no other elections going on in May. The school district is spending additional amounts of money to go ahead and have this done in May. The other problem I got is that these elections are being taken, are being done in all school facilities. Every school property is being used for these elections, even the maintenance department and the bus barn. These machines are being moved from 5 different locations one day and then being moved to another 6 locations the next day. They're hitting every school with the exception of our alternative school. That's the only one. They're hitting all the elementaries, all the middle schools, all the high schools. And the only one location that does not change is our IT department, which is also owned by the school. On Monday, it was open from 7 to 7. On Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, they'll be open from 8 to 6. Today, I was out there at about 7:30. I had 4 people pull up. They wanted to vote because they have to get to work at 8. And they go, "Can I go and vote?" I said, "They don't open till 8. What's up with that? I said, "That's the way they did it." Okay. The other thing.
Don't you guys all vote on these hours and the location?
Yes, and I voted against it. Okay. So, and the other thing is that in 2008 was a very successful bond that was passed. As a matter of fact, the board and everybody working together was able to go ahead and be under budget by $6 million, which was a great success. But the reason for that success is we had a bond committee made up of constituents, our constituents, people that we represent. Well, in this bond, we don't have that. We don't have that oversight of our constituents. So we don't have the voice of the people that put us into this office and have entrusted them with their children, with the staff, and with their tax dollars. Okay? So I got a major problem with that. That's why I made the motion to go ahead and let's go for 152 with 0 tax increase, and let's push it back to November. It'll allow us enough time to involve our community, to get involved and educate them. Our town hall meetings, our first one happened the day of early voting. When do you have a town hall meeting? The day of early voting. Okay, and then the other ones are the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Okay, great. Mr. Peña, a lot to unpack right here. briefly, let's address the committee, the oversight, the voting locations.
I wrote them all down.
All right.
I'm ready.
Perfect. Go
All
ahead.
right. No, certainly, and first and foremost, I think to answer to why a May election, the state of Texas does recognize May as a standard election date, and that still holds true for many jurisdictions. As you know, in Hidalgo County, there are several municipalities and school districts that are also holding elections. The reason May was elected or selected is because for two reasons. Number one, it was the upcoming election date that we wanted to see, and also it was an opportunity for us to keep an election only where the community and the people would vote on the school district. When you have an election that also involves other political campaigns or political parties, then you begin to influence it through politics or through other individuals. You also make candidates uncomfortable because people are going to want to put them in a position to determine where they might stand with regards to an election. So what we wanted to do is first and foremost keep the politics out of it. And that theme is going to carry with me forward, because I wanted to say also that if Mr. Farias has a concern with the IT building, he needs to address that with the county, because the IT building location is being run by the county, not by the school district. So going forward, Mr. Farias, maybe you want to ask them those questions. However, the dollars that he says, additional dollars, the same dollars would have been spent on a November election as a May election. Irregardless of when the school district hosts or conducts an election, we have to contract with the county, people have to be trained, and those matters have to be taken into account. So we continue to contract with the county to conduct those elections. 2 years ago, let me date back. In 2008, we had an election, and historically the district has rotated the opportunity through other campuses for parents and staff. And 2 years ago, when we had a TRE election, a tax ratification election, Mr. Farias didn't vote against that, and the machines circulated. So whatever his preference was then and now, I can't answer to, but it has been common practice within our district. Now, as far as the 152 million and things of that nature, I think you wanted for us to talk about it. But overall, I can state this: we had 5 workshops, five or six workshops leading up to this. Different scenarios were presented, different ideas were discussed, different themes were taken into account. However, as I sat in all those meetings, Mr. Farias did not once offer up an opinion or an option or even various things for us to consider, as he is now stating today. It was not until the 11th hour, right when the meeting started, when Mr. Farias decides to make a motion for the 152. So if he had different ideas, that's what our workshop is for. If he had different opportunities for us to consider, that's what the workshop is for. And as 7 board members, we're there to listen to each other and to consider those different options. But never once did we hear up until at that point. And then since then, unfortunately, it's been his opinion to be against it. So
what about the policy board?
Lastly,
issue?
with regards to and that's why I'm getting back to that. Lastly, with regards to the committee, we had a committee started off with our strategic plan. We had our district work on this as well. We had community input, we had district input, and then when we came to the idea of discussing a bond committee, we did ask board members to submit for a bond committee, but there were 2 names for each person. And the names that were given to us by the 3 board members that have opposed this bond dealt with their political parties and dealt with parties with their political campaigns. Whereas I pointed out to Mr. Farias, and I even named the names that the other 4 had submitted, and those 4 names were not politically affiliated. They were business people, they were attorneys, they were regular citizens. They were spread out throughout the community that we knew for a fact did not have any of that. On the other hand, some of those names that were involved with those politics have had issues with regards to voter fraud. They had issues with regard to the funding of student accounts in our district and whether theft had occurred or not, and it's come out in your newspaper. And those individuals have had questionable items of theirs in recent elections.
So it sounds to me that
again,
you weren't in agreement with
I was not in agreement because we wanted to keep those politics out, you know.
Mr. Farias, if you
Yes, definitely.
this last one, and then we're
No,
gonna
no,
have to
yeah,
wrap
definitely.
up.
You know, as far as the allegations of people that the names that were turned in, I know who I turned in. They didn't have any allegations or anything of that nature. But the one thing that really disturbed me was the fact that when I asked Mr. Peña, why did you pull that item? Was because he told me, like he just said, he just didn't like the individuals that we had there because they were political. And I said, well, you know, whether you like them or not is irrelevant. The fact is that we all have a choice to pick who we want to represent our constituents and our people to oversee the bond. But the really major, the major concern I had was that the individuals that could serve on this had to have a college degree. The prerequisite to have a college degree. In other words, you're telling me individuals that don't have a college degree cannot participate in this? I mean, that's discriminating against someone's education. You know, that's a travesty. There's so many people out there, and it isn't their fault. They didn't have the opportunity to get a college degree, to be on a board. That's wrong. I know a lot of successful individuals, very successful individuals that don't have college degrees. And guess what? They pay a lot of taxes. And we have a lot to learn from everybody, not just the select few that have degrees or no. I'm here to listen to everybody, degree or no degree. And I also went ahead and I told Mr. Peña, when me and Mr. Peña were walking soliciting votes, I'm sure Mr. Peña did not ask him, before you vote for me, do you have a college degree? No, me and Mr. Peña would not be here sitting right now if we had that prerequisite on individuals to support us and us asking them to go vote for us. I'm here to represent
And I made it very clear to Mr. Farias that given his comment, I had a lot of latitude with that and I wouldn't have a problem to consider that. But again, don't bring politics. You know, this is about education and doing the best for our students. Don't bring in the politics.
All right. Well, I'm sure we could go on for another hour if we had the time. Unfortunately, we don't. But I do want to thank both of you for coming out and speaking about this very important issue.
Thank you.
Again, it's up to the voters, right, to
Yes, ma'am.
decide. And we want to remind you that you can cast your ballots at any of the 11 polling locations throughout the valley or throughout Hidalgo County. And to remind you that there is a town hall meeting on this very same issue tonight at Edinburg Villa High School, that is, at 5:30. So again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
you for watching, and go cast your votes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
IBC Bank believes in doing more for local communities. Every year, IBC Bank gives back by investing in countless worthwhile endeavors. IBC Bank invests in our youngest community members by presenting Minitropolis, a school program that teaches students leadership and the importance of responsibility. From supporting local nonprofit organizations to helping present school programs, IBC Bank is devoted to making a positive impact in people's lives and contributing to the prosperity of future generations.
This has been a truly exciting year at IBC Bank. Having challenged ourselves to become the community bank of choice that dominates and delivers on the expectation of leadership. And boy, have we delivered.
IBC Bank offers free checking accounts, is open 7 days a week, even on Sunday. With 29 convenient locations throughout Hidalgo County and convenient hours of service, IBC Bank does more for you. IBC Bank takes pride in organizing events that bring together our community leadership. Outings such as Empresarios and RGV Women with Purpose provide a vital opportunity for business owners and community leaders to unite. Together, we explore and educate the public and business community on events and changes that affect our economy. United we stand, and IBC Bank stands with you to help ensure the continued growth and prosperity of our local communities.